Hello, and welcome to another edition of Bible Deep Dives. Today we're going to be diving into Ephesians chapter 1, specifically verse 15, but we're going to read 15 and 16 together. This is what Paul writes. For this reason, because I've heard of your faith in the Lord Jesus and your love toward all the saints, I do not cease to give thanks for you, remembering you in my prayers. There are a lot of folks out there that do not believe that Paul actually authored the letter to the Ephesians. And of the many reasons that they give for denying his authorship has to do with verse 15. In order to get to their argument, we have to go back to the book of Acts, where we see that Paul had spent 3 years in the city of Ephesus, not only preaching every day, but also planting the church at Ephesus. So there's really no argument against Paul being in Ephesus for 3 years and planting that church. And so when people approach verse 15 and they see the words, because I've heard of your faith in the Lord Jesus, there is an assumption there that whoever the author here is has never met these people before. And so they would deny that Paul actually wrote these words. However, it would be logical when we date the letter of Ephesians to the most likely time period, which was about 5 years after he pastored in Ephesus. It would be logical to believe that a lot had changed in the church in Ephesus. It had experienced an enormous amount of growth. It had already had a couple of big-time pastors that have come in. I believe Timothy's probably already there at that time. And so there have been a lot of new believers that have entered the membership of the church. You know, I think of the fact that I've been here at Emmanuel now for 9 years. And I was at a church in Nebraska for 4 years before that. And I know just from what I see on YouTube and other places, that the church that I was at has changed a lot in some of the people that are there now. A lot of the people that were there when I was there are still there, but there are also some new folks that I don't know. And so if someone were to come to me and say, you should hear about the faith of the people at Calvary Church, I would then say, wow, I have heard of the faith, your faith in the Lord Jesus down at the church that you're at. So it's logical now to think that Paul, having been 5 years out of his stint in Ephesus, that there's been a big change in the church. So it's logical to think that Paul is able to say, "I've heard of your faith." So the fact that he wrote this, using that as an argument to say that Paul didn't write the letter is fairly weak. Now, going away from the proving of who the author was in this, we ought to take note of the fact that he says, because I have heard of your faith in the Lord Jesus. Now, Paul is probably writing this letter off in prison somewhere, and people are bringing word to him about what is happening in the church of Ephesus. And so my question is your faith heard away from where you're at? I mean, can our church, can Emmanuel Baptist Church, whatever church that you are at, can it be said of itself that its faith is known throughout the area that you're in? Does your city know that you exist? Would your city be better off, or would your city not be any different if your church didn't exist? Or do the people of your city and other churches around the area, have they heard of your church? And if they have heard of your church, what is that reputation? Is it faith? Is it infighting? Is it that sort of thing? My goal for our church, Emmanuel Baptist Church, is that our faith in the Lord Jesus would be known throughout all of Caneva County, to be a church where people can come and hear the gospel and the grace of Jesus Christ. And so I would love it if we could be a church in which someone can say, hey, I have heard of your faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, the question with that is, what are you going to do? What responsibility do you have in order to ensure that our neighbors hear about our faith, our county hears about our faith, that our God hears about our faith? And so what do you need to do personally in order to make your church better than it is, so that people can hear about the goodness of God and come to know the risen Lord? Because I've heard of your faith, Paul writes, in the Lord Jesus and your love toward all the saints, I do not cease to give thanks for you, remembering you in my prayers. Can that be said of your church?